Today, I'll be drafting as if I was the 33rd team in the NFL. We'll lay out the parameters and then we'll talk ball. I'll be receiving the last pick at the end of each round, not including compensatory picks. So, for example, in the first round, I'll have pick 32, because there are 31 picks in the first round. But, in the third round, I'll have the 96th overall pick, despite the third round going until pick 102. This is because every pick in the third round after the 95th overall pick was a compensatory pick. This gives me all of the picks that you see on your screen right now. With these picks, I'll be allowed to take any player that was available on the board at the time of the real-life NFL draft. But I'm putting one limitation on myself. I'm not allowed to consider their path to playing time based on where they were drafted. You see, part of the issue of doing a draft like this is that I already know where all the players went, and I could hypothetically just use that knowledge to game the system, to make my team look super good in a few years and make you all think I'm a big genius or something. Instead, I'll be treating this as if I was drafting my own real team. I'm going to be picking players who I truly thought were the best remaining player on the board at that pick number, and I'm just going to hope their talent shines through, regardless of where they currently stand on their respective team depth charts. Ultimately, I recognize this process is kind of flawed because my team doesn't exist, so I can just kind of pick whoever I want without considering team needs, how they fit in with one another, how they fit into my specific team, and so on and so forth. But I don't really give a shit. This will be fun. I'm excited to talk about these guys, so let's just get into it. With the 32nd pick overall, the Jumbo Packages will be selecting a man to help us run the Jumbo Package on every single down. Florida guard, Cyrus Torrance, who was originally taken at pick 59 overall in the second round by the Buffalo Bills. Torrance has the most seamless casual strength of any guard prospect I've seen, and I love his ability to anchor and just absorb the momentum of rushers who are flying at him. He displays excellent upper body and lower body strength to move defenders out of their gaps, and he has pad-shocking power in his hands. His hip fluidity allows him to play with great leverage, despite how tall he is at 6'5 and 3/8, which is 85th percentile for guards, and his grip strength allows him to sustain blocks for a long period of time and stay connected to defenders. His large wingspan at 83 and 7/8, which is 96th percentile for guards, makes it easy for him to seal off defenders in the run game, and when combined with his people-moving power, allows him to single-handedly create holes for our running back, who doesn't exist. He went the entirety of 2022 without allowing a single sack or committing a penalty, and, in fact, he has never allowed a single sack over the length of his career on over 1,000 pass blocking snaps. If I have any concern with his game at all, it's his lack of foot speed, slow acceleration, and below average lateral agility. This is why, despite his size, he finds himself at guard instead of tackle. He just doesn't have the athleticism to cover a lot of space. He may struggle with more athletic interior defensive linemen who cross his face, and he'll struggle with picking up stunts or delayed blitzes due to his lack of acceleration, which makes it difficult for him to get in front and square up defenders. This same issue also hinders him as a second-level blocker. It makes it difficult for him to get out in space and get in front of defenders in order to spring plays loose. Overall, I see Torrance as a really high-floor player and one who I absolutely love to watch in this class. I strongly consider Joey Porter Jr., B.J. Ojulari, and Jartavius Martin, who also would have been great picks as well, but I went with my guy and picked Cyrus Torrance. This was definitely the most difficult pick in the draft, and one that made me kick myself for not giving myself a pick in the middle of the draft or something instead of the end, as I had a really difficult time choosing between Drew Sanders, Garrett Williams, and a man who needs no introduction, because of the amount of times I've introduced him on this channel before, Stanford wide receiver Michael Wilson. Although I ultimately believe the other players will be fantastic players in their own right, it would be blasphemous to not go with my guy, Michael Wilson, who was originally picked 94th overall by the Arizona Cardinals. I already have an entire video on why I love Michael Wilson so much, and I discussed him in my second round reaction video, so I'll keep this brief. Wilson's an incredible route runner with a great release package who is underrated in this class because he can't stay healthy, and because of that lack of ability to stay healthy caused him to be underdeveloped in the ball skills portion of his game and not get a lot of snaps. However, his attention to detail in his route running and his release package, his tenacious attitude after the catch, and all the amazing things I've heard about his character make me honestly and truly believe he'll be an awesome receiver at the NFL level, if he could stay healthy, which is worth the risk to me, even over guys who I think will be Pro Bowlers in Drew Sanders and Garrett Williams respectively. Ultimately, I'm just going to trust my evaluation, and hopefully he'll make me look really good when he balls out for the Cardinals, and if he doesn't, I'll just look like a dumbass. But I already look like a dumbass, so I'm okay with that. But in all seriousness, I think if he stays healthy, he's going to be an all-pro, so watch out for this guy. With our third round pick, that being the 96th overall pick, the Jumbo Packages could not resist the urge to take one of the most jumbo dudes in this class in Ohio State offensive tackle DeJuan Jones, who originally went to the Browns in the 4th round at pick 111 overall. If you haven't seen my draft fathers video, here's the deal. Jones had a consensus ranking of 40 overall, and rarely, if ever, fell out of any 2-round mock drafts. In the real draft, he ultimately fell 71 spots from his consensus rating, and, unlike other players who fall, we have a definitive reason why: character concerns. Teams didn't like the fact that Jones only participated in the first day of the Senior Bowl and then sat out the rest of the week after a great performance on the first day. Teams didn't like that he refused to weigh in at his pro day and looked noticeably heavier. Teams also didn't like when he supposedly told them during interviews that his dream was to actually play in the NBA, not the NFL. It's safe to say that he didn't impress teams in the interviews. So why am I taking him? Well, first, I haven't met the guy personally, so I'm not going to make judgments about his character. I have no idea what he's like. 2, the possibility of getting a high-quality or high-end starter for years to come in the late third is worth the swing to me. Last, and most importantly, I can't get fired. Jones is an absolute mountain at 6'8 and 1/4, which is 97th percentile for offensive tackles, and he's an insane wingspan of 87 and 7/8, which is also 97%. Attempting to run around him is like trying to freaking run around a brick wall. He doesn't even need to move because he eats up so much damn space. He has great grip strength, knockback power in his hands, displays an incredible anchor, and he actually moves pretty well for his size, which is probably due to his basketball background. He didn't allow any sacks in 2022, and his 1.3 allowed pressure rate led all FBS tackles. I know it's statistically proven that draft steals or draft followers usually don't pan out, and DeJuan Jones also isn't likely to start on the Browns, which makes this a really risky pick, but if I had my own team and I didn't find any character concerns in my interview with him, this would be my pick. Although Adetomiwa Adebaware was also a close second. Although we can't run our jumbo formation on defense, we'll add some defensive players too, I guess. In the 4th round, at the 135th pick overall, the jumbo packages will select South Carolina cornerback Darius Rush, who originally went in the 5th round at pick 138 to the Indianapolis Colts. This is an upside pick. Darius Rush is a former wide receiver who only made the switch to cornerback within the last few years. He still has a lot of refinement to his technique and intangibles to work on. However, he's an insane athlete. He scored a 9.81 RAS score, which ranks 43rd all-time out of 2,212 cornerbacks. And his athleticism is functional on the field, where he displays excellent reactionary athleticism and fluid movement to stick to wide receivers in man coverage. His receiving background shows in his ball skills and his ability to contest the catch point, where he has 15 pass breakups and 3 interceptions on 72 career targets. Even as a work in progress, he still managed an 80.3 coverage grade and only allowed a 58.1% completion rate, which ranks slightly above average for corners. He needs to become a more reliable run defender, but his athleticism is unteachable, and a lot of his deficiencies are in areas that he can improve with proper coaching and experience. So I'm really excited to welcome him as the first defensive player on the jumbo package team. I also strongly considered offensive lineman Jordan McFadden and edge Nick Hampton, but I think I ultimately made the right pick with Darius Rush. After the 2nd round pick, the 5th and the 6th round picks were definitely the most difficult. For the 5th round pick, I had a tough time choosing between edge rusher Carl Brooks from Bowling Green, edge rusher Jose Ramirez from Eastern Michigan, cornerback Trey Hodges-Tomlinson from TCU, halfback Eric Gray from Oklahoma, center Luke Whippler from Ohio State, and wide receiver A.T. Perry from Wake Forest. Ultimately, I settled on edge rusher Jose Ramirez, who was originally drafted in round 6 at pick 196, but I'll be taking him here in round 5 at pick 167. Ramirez is a very creative rusher who wins primarily with his elite bend, athleticism, and ability to sequence his pass rush moves together. He's a high motor player who finishes his winning reps, and he's absolutely dominated in college, leading the MAC in sacks and tackles for loss in 2022 with 12 sacks, 50 pressures, and 19.5 tackles for loss. His 6.95 second 3-cone and 4.30 shuttle time ranked number 1 in the combine, and he achieved a 90.5 PFF pass rushing grade, 80.1 PFF run stop grade, and a 21.5% pass rush win rate. However, Ramirez is still a bit concerning. He dominated a low level of competition, but there's still a question about whether his skills will translate to the NFL. Additionally, his play strength is very inconsistent, he struggles to hold his gap and set the edge, and he also has difficulty consistently shedding blockers in the run game. These weaknesses project him as more of a pass rush specialist, like a Bryce Huff, for example, from the Jets. He won't necessarily be an every down player, but he can come in and make a huge impact for the team on passing downs. As mentioned before, this was another really difficult one. I was pretty torn between Dwayne McBride, D. Winters, Andrew Voorhees, Corey Trice, Brandon Hill, or Moro Ojomo. Ultimately, since my job's not on the line, the jumbo packages with their 6th round pick, 210th overall, will select Purdue cornerback Corey Trice. Corey Trice, real name, no gimmicks. Trice, alongside DeJuan Jones, is another one who found himself on the fallers list and actually had one of the largest draft falls from consensus, finding himself picked a whopping 129 picks after his consensus rating of 112 when he was selected 241st overall by the Steelers. But unlike DeJuan Jones, there are no apparent character issues. He fell for medicals. Medical issues and character concerns are kind of becoming a running theme for this team, but they fit right in with their team owner, yours truly, who's kind of an asshole and constantly in pain, so I guess it makes sense that I'm drawn to the medical and character issues guys. I'm especially an asshole to people who don't subscribe. But despite the injury concerns, Trice could be the steal of the draft, as he's a capable starting corner, and getting a capable, maybe even quality starting corner this late in the draft is 100% a steal. 6'3", Trice's height is 97th percentile, and he's great length at 32 3/8, which is 81st percentile. But despite being a longer, heavier corner, he scored a 9.65 RAS score with his elite shuttle and 3-cone times. These short area quickness skills show on tape, as Trice shows the ability to mirror receivers' releases at the line of scrimmage and stick with receivers during routes. He has the length and the demeanor to be involved at the catch point and make an impact in the run game, and he also has the versatility to run press man or press zone schemes, which is really good for a team that doesn't have any defensive scheme and only like 3 other defensive players. Trice only allowed 1 reception on 88 press coverage snaps, only had 4 missed tackles on 126 career attempts, allowed only 220 yards in coverage in 2022, achieved a coverage grade of 73.9, run defense grade of 80.5, and only allowed a 47.7% completion percentage against him. If he doesn't work out at corner too, he has the size and tackling ability to be a really good safety as well. So ultimately, if the medicals aren't considered, which is something I have no access to, I love this pick for the jumbo packages, especially in the 6th round. Last, but certainly not least, because we had the last pick in the 7th round, we have the priority of selection of any undrafted free agents we'd like. There were definitely some undrafted free agents I liked, but in regard to guys I felt I had to secure before the draft ended, I strongly considered Army edge rusher Andre Carter, Cincinnati linebacker Ivan Pace Jr., and Coastal Carolina interior defensive lineman Jared Clark. Ultimately, with our last pick, that being the 249th pick overall, the jumbo packages will select someone who perhaps comes in a smaller package, but has a jumbo-sized heart, in Ivan Pace Jr. Talking about his weaknesses first, Pace is 5'10 and 1/8, which comes in at the 1st percentile for linebackers. This size poses a pretty big detriment to his game in the NFL, as it will make it difficult for him to cover tight ends, it will be hard for him to not get washed out of plays by blockers and to consistently shed blocks, and he has a limited tackle radius. Additionally, due to his lack of size, he relies pretty heavily on his athleticism to win, but I think he still has a role in the NFL as a designated pass rushing linebacker or a quality special teamer due to his violent, tenacious style of play and a motor that never stops. Pace led all linebackers in pressures in 2022 and had a crazy 33.3% pass rush win rate and a 30.2% pressure rate, which are both one of the highest in college football. He flies to the football and has great ability to navigate congested areas to locate ball carriers. He has really great sideline-to-sideline range, which was shown when he was clocked in as one of the fastest linebackers at the Senior Bowl, where he was also named the defensive MVP. In 2022, he had a 93.2 PFF grade, 93.3 pass rush grade, 70.6 coverage grade, and managed 92 tackles, 55 pressures, and 12 sacks. He also probably has the best pound-for-pound strength in this draft class. Seriously, look what he did to our first-round draft pick, Cyrus Torrance, at the Senior Bowl.
At least a portion of this format where you get the opportunity to get around all these really good coaches. It's network. At least a portion of this format where you get the opportunity to get around all these really good coaches. It's network.
Look how they massacred my boy.
This also led to one of the most hysterical football photos I've ever seen. I know this image is hard to get out of your mind, but I promise Cyrus Torrance is good, so don't question my first-round pick. On that note, we're done here. Thank you guys for watching to the end of this video. If you're still here, I'd really appreciate a like to get the content out to more people, and a subscription so we can continue talking football together. Content this summer may be a bit slower as I'm currently studying for the bar exam, so unfortunately I have to focus on that, but don't you worry. I'll be here to make more bad jokes and talk more football. Unless I fail, in which case I guess I'll have even more time to make videos. Well, have a great day. Later.